speaking to you at the annual general meeting. I was just being elected as the first Green Party MLA here, and there was quite a lot of enthusiasm, there was a lot of confidence, hope for the future. We were moving forward, we're moving away from sectarian politics, bringing in power sharing, bringing in partnership government. And this whole thing, people were feeling that actually, for the first time in many generations, we actually were going to move forward together and get rid of all the conflict. We're in the era of the Chuckle Brothers, and although we laughed at it at the time, I think I'd like to bring back the era of the Chuckle Brothers, because basically the brothers grin that we have now basically is certainly Chuckle Brothers is preferable. So as I was saying, the assembly was set up, and obviously this was an important thing as far as the Green Party was concerned, because we had now credibility, and where previously the press were not interested in what we were saying, virtually every day I get a phone call from somebody in the media asking for my views on some particular issue, or there's an issue, something happens, fish kills. Fish kills are our in thing at the moment, unfortunately there's too many of them, but they always trying to find out what our view is, and basically this comes back to one of the issues which I raised previously. One of my priorities when I was elected was to get the Independent Environmental Protection Agency, and we've been obviously we tried that, and there was obviously 4 out of 5 parties in the executive in the assembly got it. They supported it. We had all the NGOs, we had all the demonstrations and things, and then we get the situation where, in fact, Arlene Foster basically said we don't need an independent environmental protection agency. And I would say every time we have a fish kill now, that refutes that decision. But we've moved on since then. Instead of the Arlene, we've now got the climate change denier, Sammy. And Sammy won an award at our conference, remember, for his views on nuclear power last time. He's now, I think he's fairly well in line for winning an award next year. But it is depressing when the Minister for the Environment actually isn't a member, does not believe in climate change and does not believe we need to take any action to tackle climate change, because all his policies and the executive policies would be based on that. But having said that, the executive policies, at the moment, we don't have any executive policies, we don't have an executive meeting. Last meeting was obviously in June. And we've got a situation now where we're moving back into the old politics of conflict. And I'm concerned because basically if we don't move forward, we move forward in a partnership, move forward together, then there's a very serious danger we will slip back into the politics of the past. And the good will, the optimism of the population, which was generated when we set up the assembly, we actually set up the power sharing. Everybody was hopeful in those days, but now we seem to have lost that. And it's not surprising. People as a whole have become cynical and disillusioned with the politics. And I think if you ask them, most people would say, well, what's the point of the assembly? It's not achieving anything. Do we really need it? And instead of the consensus government, which you all voted for, we've seen the parties revert to the partisan policies just dictated by the most extreme backwoodsmen. We're getting, Jim Allister is setting the agenda, and basically we've got the dissident Republicans also reflecting on the Sinn Fein policy. And since the Dromore by-election, the DUP have relapsed. They've basically gone to say, we did badly in the Dromore by-election because we tried to move towards the centre, move towards partnership, the old hardliners don't like that. They're not an inch philosophy, and basically then they didn't do particularly well, and they're frightened electorally, and they don't want to be seen as actually cooperating with Sinn Féin. And obviously we've got the Shinners who are now under pressure to deliver, and I think there is some element in that they haven't. They weren't perhaps promised the things, but they weren't promised the things with the DUP, but they were promised by the government that these things would be delivered, and a number of things have not been delivered. So they are under extreme pressure not to seem to be weak in the face of the DUP intransigence. So compromise, cooperation, which should be the actual basis of the Assembly, it's now become a bad word. And we have a situation where we've got gridlock. Neither will give way on this. And obviously we have a situation now where no decisions are being taken at all. And that is totally unacceptable. And I think if we look at the issues facing the Assembly at the present time, we've just fuel poverty. I mean, it is ridiculous that, for example, Gordon Brown was able to announce a programme for fuel poverty for the rest of the UK, and Scottish and Welsh assemblies basically were putting through similar proposals. But because our executive can't meet, we have no policy on fuel poverty. And the people out there are suffering. We've seen the 33% increase in electricity. We've seen the increase in food prices. Fuel costs. Then we've got in the pipeline water charges, etc. So we have a situation here that there's an awful lot of people out there are suffering an awful lot, and it's going to get a lot worse, particularly the elderly. I mean, if we have a bad winter, God forbid what's going to happen. I mean, I would say hypothermia, but certainly it is a very serious situation. But we can't do anything for these people because the executive is not actually meeting. The credit crunch, we had the floods, again, there should be something done about that. Job losses, we've also got mortgage defaults. There's a lot of very serious problems which should be tackled by the Assembly. There's also the whole environmental things. And this is the important thing. Unless the Assembly's there, they can't actually tackle the issues that we want to tackle. And that's, so we really depend, as a party, we depend on an executive being there so that they can implement free policy. But the present deadlock is the road to disaster, and basically something has got to be done. I think every week we say there's going to be an executive meeting, and then it's cancelled. There was supposed to be one Thursday, it's cancelled. Will the one, Peter Robinson says, we think we'll get an agreement next week. I hope we do. We've got to move on, and if we don't, we move back. So cooperation, compromise, we must take, those must be what governs our politicians. Instead, we recently have been faced by confrontation and make threats to each other. The backwoods then must be ignored, and we must move forward. It's what the people voted for, and it's a duty of those parties within the executive to listen to the wishes of the people and move on and get rid of the confrontation and threats. Move forward in a position of compromise and cooperation, because, as I say, that's what the electorate voted for. Okay.